Hello and welcome to the Somewhat Daily Backup for Wednesday, the 23rd of September. I'm your host, Nick Boy Richardson, and I am joined by Stephanie, Lady Laphand herself, Ben Dixon. Stephanie, how are you?
I love Lady Laphand as my official title. I know it was an off-the-cuff thing, but I'm formally stating that my approval.
Good. Did you say you know it was or it wasn't?
No, I know it was.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah. I mean, and it just comes off the tongue, and then it just feels great. It's just like Lady Laphand is like that. That's I don't know. If I feel like it's much better than Gus's. Gus, Porn, Nick, Ronald. So no one wants that, right? Although according to a viewer on the last news, it should actually be Angus, by far the best looking of the three back pocket boys, Ronald.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what, that one hurt.
There's all kinds of fan fiction being written about him.
There he is. He's a beautiful man. I'll tell you who else is a beautiful man. Usher Gunsberg. And Usher, you are beautiful, and we didn't mean to piss you off on a bike. That was not the intention.
Here's what I think about that. He just doesn't get how Twitch works, and that was an unfair reaction to what is ultimately a really positive thing in a raid. But he saw it as some kind of like troll spam that was coming in, being like, make Goose the Bachelor or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he probably is on guard for that all the time. He's probably always like, someone's going to say some shit about me, and that's just the price you pay for being on television, I suppose. But yeah, Usher, if you are watching, and you're definitely not, but we apologize for ruining your morning. But at the same time, it's kind of funny. And I'm dining out on that story for the next couple of years because that was a fun time. Before we get started, just wanted to two things. One, I wanted to shout out to our Pocketeer patron Pextraordinaire. Today's is Jess Robb. So Jess is a patron of our fine show. If you want to become a patron, you head to patreon.com/backpocket. But Jess, may your days be filled with cameras that actually work when it is time to record the news, with microphones that actually submit audio when it is time to record the news, and with internet that does not make everything, quote, sticky. So that is my blessing for you today, Jess, for being a Patreon subscriber. And if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, and you should, head to patreon.com/backpocket. Steph, you reckon they should go, right? They get all sorts of cool shit.
You get access to the Discord, which is the greatest community in the history of Discord and the internet. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say it. It's true.
And I feel like than Reddit.
Yeah, I can be the definitive voice in this thing because of reasons. And
it's your show.
With other tiers, then you can also get really cool things that are made for you by us, which is amazing. Art, ads, logos, all kinds of cool things. You can have a segment named after you. Heaps of cool rewards on the Patreon. You should totally join. And you'll support the show. Totally
join. That's the most important thing. You can buy cameras that actually work. That'd be lovely. We got a little hype train going. Level 3 hype train. Hang on. Level 4 hype. Oh no, it just said hype train success. Everyone tapped out at level 3. Well, that's not as exciting, is it? That's fine. I won't be angry. Oh, I could continue my sub right now. Let me subscribe to this channel that I also own. Continue sub. There we go. I'll pop up on screen. And then the last thing, before we jump into the news, I saw someone say something. Nick, you standing? Yes. Nick finally got that standing desk that he teased in episode 1 of the show. It finally got delivered. Check this out. Look at this. Look what's happening. Am I rising or is it falling?
That's
Nobody knows.
Saying.
Look at this.
Ooh, nice. I like that.
All right, now I got to bring it back up.
You think I'm using my webcam? Oh, that would be an interesting theory.
That's not in there.
Oh, well,
it's in here. But I don't think
there he is, the woodsman himself, wandering in. It's just, guys, we're just warning you. It's just going to be one of those days. It's just going to be one of those tech days because no one knows what's working. Nick's far too powerful. I mean, it did make me look like I was rising. That's very exciting. T says, Nick, good on you for looking after yourself. Yeah, good on me. I'm great. I'm thoroughly enjoying the standing desk. It took 4 hours to build and then a lot of time setting up. But all the cables are so hidden. They're all so hidden. Steph, I bought a thing that holds all the cables. There's no cables anymore.
I dream of a time when I will not have any cables. I just don't think that that's ever going to be a possibility for me.
That's fine.
I'm being realistic. I know when to dream and I know when to accept my fate, and my fate is cables.
Your fate is cables. Our fate is to talk about some news. So let's jump into it. Obviously, the big story that we're going to spend a bunch of time talking on is the Bethesda news. We want to hear your opinion on Bethesda Microsoft as well. So let us know in the show feedback channel on Discord your opinions on that buyout merger thing, and we'll shout out the most interesting ones. Who else are we going to shout out? It's Tim. None of this is possible without Tim. Literally all of Back Pocket would fall apart if we didn't have Tim in the chat. Tim from the Learn Programming Academy. Just head to lpa.dev/backpocket to download the guide about what Tim does. I'll tell you what Tim does. He teaches over 1 million people, not at a time, one by one. If he did 1 million people at a time, not only A, would that be very impressive, B, that's super time efficient. And I feel like that's probably something Tim should look into about whether or not he can knock all this over at once. Just do 1 day of work for the rest of your life.
I mean, I feel like he could program something that would make that happen, even if he couldn't do it himself, because he's such a great programmer. I think that's
probably true. He could program time. So if you want to learn how to program time, head to lpa.dev/backpocket, the Learn Programming Academy. Everything is super easy to watch. They're all video lessons, and most of them are $20 or less, so it's affordable. It's cheap to be able to rewrite time and history. And
I love that Tim has become this kind of fabled hero in the chat. Now people are like, Uncle Tim, our mate Tim.
Well, Uncle Tim, because someone did say that they were his uncle. I can't remember if it was this person.
They were Tim's uncle, or Tim was their uncle?
Sorry, that Tim was their uncle.
Right.
I'm fairly certain, and Tim, I hope this isn't a sore topic. I'm fairly certain all of Tim's uncles would be dead, because Tim's on the this end of the spectrum in terms of age. But that's because he's taught 1 million people in 1 day. That right. Ravages the body.
It does.
All right. What else ravages the body and the wallet? It is Microsoft buying Bethesda, which just came out of nowhere, Steph. Broke 2 days ago. I was sitting like a pauper at my previous desk, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and suddenly I see a tweet that Microsoft acquired ZeniMax Media and publisher Bethesda Softworks. Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, published a letter on Xbox Wire welcoming the Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Dune, Dishonored, and Quake franchises, as well as Starfield and more, to Microsoft. Steph, what was your reaction when you heard this?
I mean, I think the first thing that comes to anyone's mind is does that mean that they're going to smash the exclusive hammer on all of those games and freeze out PlayStation in the process? The other thing that I thought was just that it was such a huge chunk of change to buy that company for. I mean, I remember 2.5 billion is what they bought Mojang for back in 2014, which was, it seemed huge at the time, but 7.5 just seems astronomical. That's such a, I can't even.
Yeah, it's it's an astonishing amount of money. It's how much was Disney bought? How much did Disney buy Star Wars for? I should have looked that up before I started talking about it. I think it was $4 million. It's bigger than that, is what I'm trying to say. It's a massive amount of money, and that obviously Microsoft are going, we're going to make that money back because the buyout of Mojang has reaped rewards for them in terms of Minecraft. So it was just, for me, it was just this was that thing where you go, Microsoft, the narrative over the past 12 months have been, you don't have any games, you got Game Pass is kind of cool. And then over the last couple of months, it's been okay, you're heading up towards the launch of the console, why are we buying your console? Game Pass is pretty good now, it's got some cool stuff on it. And then they announced the consoles, there's the cheaper console. Even though they delay Halo, they start getting much more third-party stuff on Game Pass. Suddenly, Flight Simulator comes out. People are like, Game Pass is the best deal in PCs. Plus, that cheap Xbox is actually pretty cheap for what I'm trying to do. And I don't even need to get that. It's for PlayStation. Still missing that one thing, though. And then they just go, we're going to buy some of the most beloved franchises in gaming history, and we're going to choose what to do with them. This, in one fell $7.5 billion swoop, fixes the Microsoft doesn't have enough exclusives, because even though they say they're going to do it on a case-by-case basis, technically Microsoft have exclusives now. These games are theirs to do with what they want.
It's so true. And I remember before when you were talking about Microsoft playing the long game and how, this deal has probably been in the works for such a long time. And we were sitting here going, "Ooh, which is the better console? What's got the better hardware? Like, how big is it going to be?" Like, doesn't even factor in, really, ultimately, when we think about it. Like, there are such bigger things at play here than, like, the devices themselves. When we think about this kind of, war of Sony versus Microsoft, they're kind of like, we're just going to start buying up chunks of the earth, and then at the end there's just going to be like a destroyed husk and we're all going to have to go settle Mars because, like, how was Earth destroyed? Sony and Microsoft killed everyone in the process.
That's so, it's so true because
that escalated very quickly, but you get what I'm saying.
I completely. This is why I feel like I would be a terrible CEO of a company, because like you said, this deal would have been in the works for ages. When people are going, "Oh, Halo's getting delayed, Microsoft have no games, rip Halo, rip Microsoft, blah blah blah," if I was Phil Spencer, I would have just been like, I would have let this news leak. There's no way I could keep this under wraps, because it would just be like, people were talking so much shit about them, including us, and then they just turn around.
What could have Phil Spencer put in the background of his webcam to give this away? So,
Pete, I have just put a link in the back pocket Slack channel. Perfect timing, Steph, because I saw this tweet from Fobwashed popped up today, and it was just, So, you did see it. There you go. The Phil has Todd sitting on his bookshelf on July 1st and nobody knows. And that's just like the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. It's just so good. So Microsoft have gone. They now have 25 studios. This is 3 years ago, I think, is when they started announcing that, they announced their first big thing of like, we bought Double Fine and we bought X, Y, and Z. They've now got 25. Sony have 15 first-party studios. So Microsoft nearly double the amount of studios with this, because the studios that fall under the umbrella of this purchase, it's not just Bethesda that you think about. You've got like Arcane, you've got where's the actual list? Again, should have just prepared. Why didn't I not prepare? Why didn't I prepare, Steph? We got ZeniMax on Elder Scrolls Online there right now. Where's the freaking list? Steph, Phil.
So I feel like if they make console exclusives, or they make it a Microsoft exclusive, that'll be like a pretty low blow. Because on one hand, I'm like, I get that they want to win gamers over onto their platform, but is it going to make them kind of villainous if they freeze out every Sony person from playing Bethesda games? It's interesting to think about what's the play here. Are they going to make themselves seem evil, or do they just not care about that?
No, they don't care at all. It's Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios. So you got Prey, you've got Evil Within, you've got Wolfenstein, you've got Fallout, you've got Elder Scrolls, you've got Rage, you've got Doom. But with that, I think that they've said that they will honor, they're going to honor Deathloop, and they're going to honor Ghostwire Tokyo as being games that will appear on PlayStation platforms, and then everything else is going to be a case-by-case basis. Okay,
that's interesting that they're like, we'll give you this. We'll give you this.
I think it's because obviously PlayStation, and I want to know how much of a surprise this was for PlayStation, because they've been promoting Deathloop as being, this is the thing. They've been putting a lot of sort of Sony in all of their first party. This is our launch lineup or launch window. Then Deathloop is featured prominently within it, and for them to I wonder how much they knew about the fact that that company is going to be bought out by Microsoft. You're actually going to be publishing a Microsoft game on your launch window. But I think that it does not make sense at all for Microsoft to let these games on other platforms. Like the thing that Microsoft are trying to do is to get you to sign up to Game Pass. They want you. They're really only cutting, and technically they're only cutting out PS4. You still get to play these things on PC. You get to play them on Xbox. Maybe they'll throw you a bone and go, it comes out here for the first year and then it goes to PS5 or something. But I don't think you spend $7.5 billion and not just go, these are my toys now.
Reese Wild in the chat says, I reckon the push is maybe to say pay $70 for the game everywhere else, but with Game Pass, it's included. I mean, is that maybe something they could start with and then
could be
do the massive greedy haul and be like, nobody gets it except us?
Could be. It could be. I mean, it's just like, and they've got so many games that are in development now from all these studios that they can also, like, you know, Starfield and Elder Scrolls are the things that you go, well, those are the first titles that at least I thought of going, oh my God, they now own Elder Scrolls. They now own whatever Starfield is and what stuff like that. But those games are quite a long way off. There is a path of other games that these studios are developing that they can probably test the waters with and go like, okay, well, we're going to put out like the next Wolfenstein is going to have a 3-month exclusive window here. But then the next Doom is actually going to come out day and date on all platforms, like you said, but free here, $70 here, and just sort of see what works best. But yeah, it's just one of those like huge, not to get too wanky about it, but just like, I just remember sitting in that chair going, oh my God, they just own so many games. And I guess my question now is like, do they own too much? I love Game Pass.
It's like
is
Disney,
this too
right?
many games?
Well, you're like, it's great that this company, I guess, you know, if you're trying to put a positive spin on it, is supporting this franchise and is going to be supporting them long term to make really great quality stuff that we all love and enjoy. But when you look at how much Disney owns, you're like, should anyone own that much? And is that going to does that mean that they're going to, you know, potentially change the things that we love in ways that we weren't expecting? Does it mean they're going to prevent us from doing certain things that we wanted to do? It raises a lot of questions that it's hard to know. I think, like, if we look at Minecraft, for example, I think Minecraft only got better after Microsoft bought it. It maybe lost its kind of grassroots nerdiness, but you know, for one thing, like, it got Notch out of there, so it's that's a pro. And then, you know, I think they've just done really cool things with the franchise while, you know, allowing it to stay true to its kind of core audience, which is important. So if we use that as a benchmark, then it seems like Microsoft wouldn't tinker with anything to the point that people would feel like it wasn't true Bethesda anymore.
They have said that they're going basically hands off, and that that all these studios will be able to just operate as they were. I would hope that they put maybe not a hand, but maybe just a finger on Bethesda Softworks and just go, hey, maybe you should try releasing a game that isn't just riddled with bugs on day one. Maybe it's like that possibly is just an option. But yeah, I don't think they want to be, and I don't think you look at those games, the list of those games, buggy though some of them are, I think that they're all basically stellar franchises. They're stellar games. So it's not like you're coming in and going, I think that we could make a better Wolfenstein. That's
a good point, though. Does it go through a more like a rigorous,
friggin' hope so,
like play testing, you know, standard process before it gets released? If Microsoft are kind of attaching their name to it, you know, I mean, that could be a good thing.
That could be a good thing. Steezy in the chat says, I'm rather annoyed by all this. I've spent 2 years saving for the next-gen console day one after I pay off... next-gen console. Day after I pay off my PS5, this gets announced, and I'm a huge Bethesda fan. That does suck. I think that like we said, there will be that onboarding, and you kind of like look at this like a long game. You're not getting, I mean, Bethesda games, you're not necessarily getting any new Bethesda games anytime soon. So maybe there's time to save up for something else.
Do you think, does when a deal like this happen, does Sony know that deal is happening, or do they just get blindsided as well?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, I think that I reckon they would have needed to know something. And I think that if there would also be a certain point in the deal where I feel like, and I'm talking completely out of my ass, like there's the level of like corporate people just know this stuff, but then also I feel like there's a level of, once it gets to a certain point, you like responsibly have to reveal this information to your partners or something, that like, oh, we're about to be owned by your competitor and whatever. I don't know, but that feels like something that the law would want.
Interesting. Do you think they'd be like, okay, yes, this deal's going ahead, but we get to release our pre-order window before you make that announcement, please? Yeah, totally.
That's so true. It's like, maybe that's why the pre-orders, I had not thought of that at all. Maybe that's why the pre-orders for the PS5 were basically like, this is the price and you can pre-order right now. Go pre-order right now. Please, you only have 4 days. Go pre-order right now.
Yeah.
That is very funny. when you were talking about how they're sort of buying up chunks of Earth, the other thing that I thought of immediately when I saw this news was I play a lot of fantasy sports, which I know you find very boring, Stephanie, so let me tell you all about them. You'll be happy to know that I'm losing in a lot of my leagues right now. But this was like a fantasy sports moment where you just go, you wake up and you check the news and you check like your app and you go, oh my God, oh shit, Art West just bought like the running back that I want. This changes everything. And this, like, to wake up and just go, oh my God, Microsoft just owned this huge chunk of things. Yeah, it was very fantasy sportsy for me. The last thing I want to bring up with this, because we've spoken about the competition, about whether or not, like, is this good? Well, we could go a little more on that, I guess. Is this good for video games, do you think? Beyond the fact of, like, is this good for Bethesda, which I think is what we were talking about before, about, like, are they going to have their games meddled with? Are their games going to be improved? Do you think this is good for video games as a whole, about the idea that, like that Disney comparison you made? I do slightly worry about the fact that competition is good, that when, like, that you look at something like Disney, and Disney makes some wonderful films, but they really homogenize things so that it's like there is a Disney, there's just a kind of Disney movie. There is things that appear on Disney Plus where you just go like even just simple things. This might be a weird thing to bring up, but there's no sex scenes or nudity or stuff in Disney films. They just don't put those on Disney Plus. And you go, right, okay, well, that's fine. That's whatever. But then that is just this sort of roughening of all the edges of their content. Do you think that something like one company owning so many studios, we're just going to see a homogenizing of games?
I think it's kind of inevitable. I mean, we say that Microsoft says that it's going to be completely hands-off and let Bethesda do their thing. But I wonder, like 5-10 years from now, when we look at what Bethesda games look like, will they still have that really, unique defining quality that make them Bethesda games, or will Microsoft have kind of slowly pushed them into a state that would be different if they'd gone in a completely different direction and this sort of sliding doors merger had never happened?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Kit Carnage in the chat said it is a win, however, for accessibility for poor or disabled people who can't afford to shell out over $60 per game, especially if it turns out game controls don't work for them. Now they can try a game without the big buy-in for a game they can't even play, which is a good point.
That's good.
And Necrotech says things that got better with a Microsoft buyout, Minecraft, things that did not, Rare. So yes, we all remember what Rare was. The last thing that I want to talk about with this is Sony's side. So, you know, this comparison, as old as time, Game Pass is basically Netflix for video games, and Microsoft are going harder and harder on that. I think that there's a bit of talk about how can Sony compete on this. I think that I heard a great analogy. I think it was on Waypoint podcast. I think that it was Patrick Klepek was talking about the idea that Microsoft might be Netflix, but Sony is trying to be HBO. And so Sony is basically going, we're going to make a small amount of games, first-party games. We're going to make them really high quality, and we're going to charge you a premium for them. So you don't get to get the thing that everybody gets. You get the thing that we have polished within an inch of its life. Do you think that on one hand, this is bad news for Sony, but on the other, it's kind of like by having things removed from their library, it helps them focus down on what they are rather than trying to compete on the same level? I
think so. I think they will focus down on this for now, but I think eventually they'll need to offer a similar service. I just don't see how, like, long term they can maintain that level of quality competing with the just quantity that appeals to so many, especially when Microsoft is just buying everyone left, right, and center. For me, when I think about like the two consoles, if we put aside the fact that I've always sort of had both because of the industry that I work in, I've always preferred the Xbox console for a bunch of dumb reasons, like the UI and the controller, and a bunch of my friends are on it. But there has never been a moment where I would ever consider not buying a PlayStation because there are so many incredible exclusives on it that I cannot live without. So it's like PlayStation is something that I've just always, without question, bought and owned for that reason. Whereas even if I prefer this for like a bunch of like other reasons. So I think that, you know, it's working in the sense that people will continue to buy that console for those incredible games. But I think long term, they'll need to come up with a similar competing.
And yeah, like they've got that thing that they announced, the PlayStation Plus, what's it called? now showcase something, whatever it is, of like the games, the great PS4 games that you can play on PS5. But that's not the same as this. That's like a bit of some old stuff that were like classic games on PS4 that you can play on PS5. But yeah, it's not the same as like third-party stuff, day and date on exclusive. So yeah, very interesting.
Scarevic says Nintendo should buy Sony. It's just Nintendo just don't care about any of this. It's what's so great about them, and it's why they will continue to be so great. It's like the planet that is being torn apart by these two entities. You know, Nintendo is a moon just orbiting happily by itself with its own little ecosystem.
Well, it's true in that they go, we're just portable gaming. And even though Microsoft is trying to encroach on that territory with like XCloud and stuff, it's a very different kind of portable gaming. And so they have that niche. Xbox have their niche about where just all the games on all the platforms and it's all just a subscription. And Sony have the thing of like, we're the best of the best and it's all about exclusives. So I kind of like the fact that there is this delineation between the three major platforms. But yeah, Bethesda news is just like, this is wild. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. All right, let's move on now. All the news basically today is about Sony or Xbox. I wanted to bring this up very quickly. A blue Xbox controller got announced. You would think that this is not worthy of news at all. They announced the new controllers and accessories that are coming. But the only thing I wanted to say about this is I normally hate colored controllers. I just go with like the black one or the white one, whatever. I have a gold one actually because I have a gold PS4 and that's the only sort of weird one that I have. But is this just not screaming for a pockety design?
Oh, it is very close to the Pocky Blue.
Isn't it so? It's just...
That's really nice.
Yeah, I'm just like, that is a nice blue. That's a pocket controller, says Pixel Paragon. We put Gus on putting some friggin' drawing. Like, Pete, can you draw on this? Can you in Photoshop just make us a little, like, show us what that would look like? You can bring it up at the end of the chat, at the end of the show.
The only thing I would say about it too, though, is just looking at the sort of like two-tone design of it, is it looks a little bit similar to the PlayStation controller. You know, the way it's kind of white and black, just looking at the back of it there. But
it looks like they turned it upside down.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the thumbsticks are blue as well. That's something that I haven't seen on these things before, which again, who cares? It's a blue controller, but it's just a nice blue. But I feel like we're going to need to buy some of these and make some custom pockety things to give away for really good competitions and stuff on the show. So really, I turned what could have been a promotion. There he is. It could have been a promotion for Microsoft. Instead, I turned it into a promotion for us. Back to Microsoft, though. XCloud announced coming to Australia in 2021. The game streaming service will launch in Australia as soon as early 2021. Xbox head Phil Spencer confirmed to SkillUp, who we know on Twitter. SkillUp tweeted out that we've beefed up our internet in Australia. Are we ready for it? And Spencer replied and said, should be in early 2021. We're doing internal testing with our local Australia teams now. So I was not expecting the XCloud stuff to come here as quickly as that.
No, I mean, I thought everyone was I thought globally people were aware of our internet situation and were kind of just like, well, can they even use it?
Yeah. Can they even read this tweet about XCloud?
But I think it's good. I think it's great. I mean, I always feel really like, regardless of our infrastructure, I feel really bummed when we don't get access to things that the rest of the world gets access to. So, you know, I'm glad that we have it. And for the people who can use it, well, enjoy yourselves.
Yeah. I'm not going to be one of those people because I have an iPhone and Apple hate fun. But there you go. You can get on board with XCloud in 2021. I'm keen to see. I guess I'm less keen to see how it works because it's either going to technically work or not technically work. But I'm interested to see how, like, what comes off the back of this about the idea of people playing sort of home video games on the road and the ways that we're going to start seeing people play games differently. If it is going to be the uptake that they're hoping, or if it's basically just going to be people who travel a lot and are in hotels and are like, oh, I can just continue playing Gears of War on my Chromebook or something. So Yeah, we'll see. A bunch of pre-order disasters occurred for the new consoles as well. Pre-orders for Sony's next-gen console, the PlayStation 5, opened shortly after the company announced its release date and price details. Steph confirmed today, of course, that's because they knew about the Bethesda news and were just like, we need some people to buy this. Retailers went rogue. They opened pre-orders early. Sites crashed. Steph, we see this every time. Why can't anyone get pre-orders right?
Here's my theory.
Please. Your first one worked out great, so this is you're on a roll.
I feel like what happens with pre-orders is there is a deliberate limiting of the amount of stock available to generate desire and hype. Because if you look at fashion, which admittedly is something I don't know a lot about, but what I understand,
jacket is great.
It's a jumper.
You're very small and blurry.
What I understand of fashion is that, limited runs of things will be released deliberately to get people to jump on that thing, knowing that it's it's only going to be around for this much stock, and if you don't buy it now, then you'll miss your chance entirely.
Yep.
So I think it's a deliberate push. If people were like, I don't know which console I want to get, I don't even know if I want to get a console. If they release like a bajillion of them, people will be like, well, they're all there. I guess I can just decide which one I'm going to get later, or whether or not I'm going to buy it later. But as soon as this kind of mass need is required because there's such a small finite amount, it becomes this really exclusive product, then people are like, clawing over each other and killing people to try and get at those. I'm going really extreme with my.
You really it's getting like The Last of Us.
Yeah, to get at the pre-orders, and now when they introduce the next round of pre-orders, people hearing how difficult it was for them to for anyone to get their hands on a pre-order in the first round are going to be even doubly as motivated to jump into the next round of pre-orders. I think it's deliberate.
You are like a walking Reddit conspiracy theory today. That's big brain. Yeah, right. I think that's possible. I always basically put this down to they confirm the boxes quite late. The manufacturing goes in and they can only start pumping out a certain amount, and then retailers don't know how many to order because they don't know the demand.
Yeah.
It's difficult to go, oh, we know that. I mean, it's like when we launched Backpocket and we launched the Patreon, and we spent 2 weeks trying to decide what our first stretch goal amount should be, because we were like, we just have no concept of how many people are going to subscribe to our Patreon. And we thankfully were smashed and it went through, but in this sort of scenario, they just don't know who is buying what, how many people are going to buy. But I just don't get why no one has figured out a system where websites don't crash and where there's not this sort of this panic thing going on. But maybe you're right. Maybe it is about the panic is all part of the thing, because this is the story at every console launch, right? The panic. It's just the panic. People only care about the panic.
I think
and
they
then in a
feed
couple of
off
weeks,
the
everyone
panic.
has one.
I think they love the panic. I think they're just jerking off to the panic every night. Sony and Microsoft.
Can I just say, I'm so happy that we all decided to start Backpocket just so you can say things like that the ABC muzzled you on Spawn Point for far too long. Hamish McKenzie in the chat says Dusk would draw that. And Ninja Boy says it's a panic wank. Yep.
Panic wank.
Yeah, a panic wank. You're just I gotta get it out. Nah!
Yeah.
But for the PS5, so the PS5, so they had sites crashing. There are people panicking, and they also had retailers just opening it up early and just going, okay, you can pre-order now. But then Xbox sort of were, I don't know, it felt a little smug about how they were doing this, because they were sitting back. They hadn't done this yet, and they basically started releasing some statements where it was like, we know that there is going to be a lot of need and excitement over this, and so this is the exact time and date that these pre-orders are going live. It's not just hey, it's happening now, and that there would be this you can just line up in an orderly line, and they were like, this will solve that problem, but that did not solve the problem, because instead you had a bunch of people queuing up already, crashing sites before it even opened. You had bots and resellers resellers and stuff trying to get in there beforehand. You would have orders going through, orders that wouldn't go through, systems sold out even though people were still getting ones. And then also I saw a story about a bunch of people who sending in complaints because they accidentally ordered an Xbox One X because the naming system is so dumb. And they would order and they'd be like, I got one. Everyone's complaining about how hard it is and it's fine. And it's like, excuse me. So no one's doing this right. Everyone sucks. The other thing, I mean, back to the pre-order stuff as well. PS5 digital stock, so the diskless version, much lower than the standard version with the disk drive that they've been selling out. Apparently, like only 25%, up to 25 to 33%, apparently, of all PS5s manufactured are the diskless version, and the rest have the drive. Do you reckon? Were you surprised by that balance?
Well, I just assumed that everyone would be going diskless, but based on the straw poll that I did in terms of talking to people online, it seemed like the vast majority of people were keen to get the disc version for a number of reasons. That games are cheaper when you buy physical copies online and things like that. Mm-hmm. You can also get secondhand games that way. And also people are just like, I need one entertainment system. It's got the 4K Blu-ray stuff in there. And so that's what I'm going to have. And I was like, oh, okay. Here I was assuming everyone was just like, get rid of physical everything. Let's go digital, like plug me into the Matrix. But that's not the case. So it makes sense to me that they sort of under supplied for the digital version. They must have done their own kind of research on what people were wanting. And it seems like most people want a disk drive still.
I mean, look at our chat right now. Everyone is saying disc. Yeah. I love a good disc, and Australia want a disc because of internet.
It's because we are spoiled and we live off publisher game codes, and we haven't had to buy a disc in a really long time. So
that's true.
It has coloured our glasses with privilege.
What does that look like?
I guess maybe not rose tinted, but like tinted with gold.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
Gold tinted glasses.
Gold tinted glasses. That's exactly what we're here for. I mean, I was quite surprised by the fact that the digital stock was that low in terms of and then in terms of like not only retailers but manufacturers as well. And PlayStation did come out and say that who was it? It was PlayStation boss Jim Ryan refused to disclose the ratio of digital edition stock being made available. Quote, the ratio between the digital edition and the disk drive model is currently something we cannot disclose at this time, but we can say that we plan to produce the necessary number of units to meet the demand for that model type. However, we've never produced two different console models at the same time before, so deciding on the right number and the right ratio is very hard to know. We are doing our best to predict demand. I also just like it because it's smaller, and anything I can do to make these things smaller, I will do.
Same.
I will cop the extra $30 a game I need to buy to just make it so it fits in the front door.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I also will pay more for the convenience of downloading it into my house just because like I just don't want the clutter. I have so much stuff all the time. I feel like I'm just constantly Marie Kondoing my life and, all video games and boxes and things. It all just kind of adds to that. So I want to go fully digital.
Have you condoed before?
I have condoed, yeah. I even do the Marie Kondo fold.
I don't know what that is. I've never actually seen anything. I just know Sparkjoy. That's it.
Please give me 1 second.
Fold. Is she going to do a live folding? This is very exciting. If she folds something on screen, holy shit. Pete said he wouldn't do it, and then he did, or we got Gus to do it. But regardless, look at what you could have. You could have two little mouths just tongue in your palms as you play the new Halo, then two eyes just staring at you. It was Gus. Well done, Gus.
Okay.
I like the fact that you are so smashed right now, and you're like, give me time.
So here is a T-shirt.
Okay. Pete, let's get a full screen on Steph. I need to see this fold.
Here is a T-shirt. So
Please.
Typically when you fold a T-shirt, you'd be like something like this, and then you end up with that. And then you're stacking them, but you can't see the T-shirts underneath. It's not practical. Unless you go like rummaging through and you're like, oh, what's under there? Oh, and then you make Yeah, correct. So the Marie Kondo method, you make like a skinnier fold like this, and then you fold it like in on itself until it's like a neat little package, and it stands up like this. So then you go and you put it in your drawer and you stack them like that so that you can see the t-shirts neatly fold in a little package, and you can just, it's like you can see everything. You can see everything.
This is insane.
Amazing.
What's the self-control like? Because I reorganize my wardrobe like once every 6 months or something, and I take everything out, and then I fold it all up and I hang it all up, and I go like, these are where the pants will live. The pants will live in this shelf, and then the t-shirts that I sleep in will live in this shelf, and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like a good 2 weeks where everything is like being folded and put back. And then it just takes one moment where it's like, I'm like, shit, I'm late for a meeting or whatever. And I run and I just like shove a jumper in the thing. And then it's just like, we're done. And everything's getting shoved back in and blah, blah, blah. So in this scenario, is it like you take one out, like the self-control to have to fold, refold, tuck it back in? Or is it because there's a little space there for that shirt that you feel compelled to fill that space with the shirt that you took out?
No, I don't think so. I think, but also the way that you fold it, it's because there's these 2 bits in the bottom. It gives it the structure to stand on its own.
This is insane.
So you don't, nothing falls over when you pull the shirt out. It all maintains the structure.
She's a witch.
She is a witch.
She's a witch. All right, cool. That sparked joy in me. And I'll show you, because I have got a standing desk so I could take you right down to where my joy is. The next news story I wanted to talk about, Mike Bithell has announced a new game. Mike Bithell, indie game designer. Thomas Was Alone, Volume, bunch of other, the new John Wick game, which is very good. Announced a new game today. It's coming out October 6th. It's called The Solitaire Conspiracy, the third in his experimental Bithell short series. It's coming to PC via Steam on October and Epic Store, on October 6th. It says, Bithell said that The Solitaire Conspiracy will feature solitaire, but extra, with powers and a full FMV storied campaign. And I was just like, I saw this and I was like, this is like the Nick trifecta. It's like weird indie dev, check. Card game, check. FMV, check. Mike, this is you made a game for Nick. This is really all the info that I have on this stuff. You have to react to simply that.
I'm excited for you.
Did you play his other shorts, like these sort of, like they do these little games in between, like Thomas Was Alone, Volume, John Wick, the bigger titles? It was Quarantine Circular and Subsurface Circular. Did you play those games?
No, I think I played a little bit of Thomas Was Alone, but that was about it.
Right, okay. I think you would really like the circular games. They're kind of just these narrative, chatty games where there's like an alien on a boat, and it's not like a horror. It's kind of much more scientific and realistic, I suppose.
I love boat-based narrative scenarios.
Good. Well, then, do I have the video game for you, Steph? So then this is the third. It's not. I don't think it's linked in any way to those two, but
it was my favorite.
Just these short games.
You know, The Last of Us 2. There's one mission that takes place. Well, not a mission, but there's one kind of section you go through that's on a boat, and I won't spoil it. But there's a whole. If you go sort of reading the notes of what happened, the diary entries and stuff, and there's a whole story of what happened on that boat before you arrived there, and I just love that. I'm like, oh, all the like cool stuff always happens on boats.
It's messed up. Cool stuff does happen on boats, but also messed up stuff. Speaking of messed up, FMV campaign, you'll see right there on screen. That's Greg Miller from Kinda Funny. The one thing that I'm questioning about this is that he's cast Greg Miller as like one of the characters or like the main story guy, and I don't know whether or not I don't know what the conceit is or whatever. I do find it a little weird when like game devs, streamers, personalities, whatever, are cast in a game as their faces. I get doing the voices, but when it's their faces, I'm like, oh, this feels like a student film now as opposed to like a product that I'm purchasing. It feels like you just went, oh, I can't be bothered finding an actor. I'll just call my friend Greg.
Yeah. I feel like there's a bit of nepotism that happens within games like that, but also I feel like if I was making a video game, I'd put you in it.
Thank you very much. And also, I was going to say, if anyone is making a video game and wants to put me out, I'll do it in a fucking heartbeat. Like, I'm just saying, as a player, I don't like it. But as a personality, I'm strong put me in it vibes. The other weird thing about that is that Greg is clearly just sitting at the desk that they record kind of funny at, and it has a green screen behind it. So it's like, that's how I see him every time I watch. That's just him. He's just sitting at the same desk in the same suit with the same beard and the same glasses. You've just cast Greg Miller in anyway, very weird. But I guess I'm saying, put me and Steph in a game. Steph, someone needs to make a fucking dating game that we're in.
Oh yeah.
Like, you and I are two single people who are looking for, like, who are friends who are looking for love. And like, I want to date someone cool and you want to date a dog, and we go out into the world and get matched up with these people.
Like heaps of like long drawn out sexual romantic tension, or like, I don't want to be part of it. And I want lots of hair options.
Totally. And it all needs to be thick.
Yeah. And I want to live in an apartment that has been already unpacked and has a door.
Please. That's all I want in my life, is to live in a place that has a door and no boxes. Well, I mean, and also, can we just say, she's lived in that. And if you don't know what we're talking about Best Friend Forever. If you go to youtube.com/Backcracker channel, you'll see the gameplay. She's lived in that apartment for a while, and she only has one box left on the floor.
She's incredibly lazy. This is what we've learned about her so far.
Because the devs of that game retweet our stuff. They get excited every time we put it up.
I know.
Do you get a little thing in your head as we're recording this of like, I'm sorry that I'm making fun of your lack of doors, or like the very obvious kink that you have turned into just a living human in your video game?
I mean, yes, but then also like we'd run into that issue on Good Game all the time where we review games and indie games and local devs and stuff like that. We had to kind of still be honest while being like, support this game because it's local. It's like,
I guess it's less the honesty and more the just like 40 minutes of making fun of shit where we are deliberately trying to find things to make fun of, not like, oh, I don't think the game is good.
Content, Nick, and they should know that. They should know that.
I
don't think anything that we say about the game makes people not want to play it. It just makes them want to play it more and come up with their own funny things to pick on.
Absolutely. To quote our good friend Angus, poor Nick Ronald, they owe us. The final story of the day, something you put in here, Steph. Naughty Dog.
Yeah. So apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently the day that The Last of Us, the first game was released, which was September 26, 2013, was coined Outbreak Day. I mean, probably by them. I don't know. It's like they've decided that the game that they released is worthy of a national holiday.
I don't think it was the state of Missouri were like, you know what? We love this game.
And so they coined it Outbreak Day, and every year since then, apparently, Outbreak Day has been celebrated on September 26th. I didn't know this, but I guess some people have been celebrating it. In light of the recent pandemic, they've decided to change the name of Outbreak Day to Last of Us Day. Thank you.
Right.
But,
okay.
But I guess the more important thing about I just thought the kind of like self-involved, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. The self-importance, I guess, around that is just very funny. But the more exciting thing about that is that at the end of the sort of press release they did is that they have a lot of exciting things planned, and we can't wait to share them with you in just a few days. So I don't know what that means, but maybe DLC, maybe announcements of some kind. If there is DLC, do we even want DLC? We talked about this game being kind of a really fitting closure to that story. A lot of people are still wanting a Last of Us 3, but I don't even know if that I closed such a firm chapter on that story that to play DLC now would feel weird to go back into it. But at the same time, I love it so much that I wouldn't say no if they release something. What do you think it could be?
I mean, they don't have multiplayer, and I don't think they're going to add multiplayer. So it's not like new maps or whatever. The only thing for me that would make it interesting is DLC, because I don't care if it's like, oh, someone made a short film, or here's a new song written by the person who played the guitar. Like, Gustav is here, and look at his magic fingers. The only thing that really is worthy of a day is to actually have some playable content they're putting out. I guess that you could go along the lines of the DLC from the first game, where it was set outside the story. It was a prequel to the story, and it sort of like it doesn't really. It informs character. It doesn't affect the plot of the first game.
It could be something from the past as well. Like it could be another flashback sequence that you play out that doesn't kind of affect the outcome of the previous game. The only other thing that I could think of that is this kind of left field, but do you recall that after the success of the first game, particularly people's reaction to the story and the performances, they made... They put on a live stage performance of just all of the narrative parts of The Last of Us with Troy Baker and I've forgotten the actress's name who plays Ellie.
It's Ashley Johnson.
That was like, I would given anything to be able to see that. That's just so incredible. And can you imagine if they did something like that? That would be so cool, but like live streamed, or maybe they do one of those Zoom things that everyone's doing now where they do like table reads of like the first episode of The Nanny or whatever.
Yeah,
it could be something like that.
I would love that, where they did a first table read of the first episode of The Nanny. I'm just looking now because I saw some people saying in the chat that there is multiplayer. There was a leaked video that appeared in August showing multiplayer for Uncharted 2. So maybe it is that. Oh. That apparently it was very, very rough, but that could be a thing. I think the reason I don't want that, and this is just purely me, this is not, like I don't want to yuck other people's yum. But it's the same with Last of Us, with Uncharted, these games where I go, you're in this massively strong narrative-based game, to add in multiplayer sort of brings me back to the idea that you're actually just a video game. You're just like, this is all fake and none of this is real. And like, there's going to be a bunch of Ellies running around a map shooting each other. You turn it into an action game unless their multiplayer is some incredibly narrative focused stealth game. Then it's like, well, it's so incongruous with the game that you made. But I know a lot of people actually ended up really liking the multiplayer from Uncharted, and they probably liked the multiplayer from Last of Us. So Travis James says Last of Us musical. I'd take that.
that would be
depressing as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Salty's Pretzel says The Last of Us Part 2 chronological edition, so that the story is improved and actually makes sense without cursed plot timing. And then just the spicy burns emote. So there you go. It could be anything. But we don't need to wait long to find out, because September 26th is The Last of Us Day, apparently. How do you get a day? Should we get a day?
I think you just make it. Like, we just say the day that Back Pocket launched with that mega live stream we did, that's Back Pocket Day.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe we should celebrate Back Pocket Day. If you guys think, in show feedback, just over the next week, if you think of things that we could celebrate Back Pocket Day on, and I think that the day it launched is probably, because it's also Gus's birthday, was launch day.
Oh, but then I don't want to overshadow Gus's birthday with a Back Pocket Day.
Or we could actually give him a birthday that's filled with meaning and love, as opposed to what they normally are, which is just like,
but it's like people who have
money
their
from
birthday
the
on
parents.
Christmas, people are like, here's a Christmas present and also your birthday.
Yeah, right. Yeah, where you end up getting a party in July because it's like, we just want to separate this.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? How about Back Pocket Day? How about we always throw Gus a great birthday because we love him and want him to have a lovely birthday.
Yeah.
Back Pocket Day is officially Gus's birthday is Back Pocket Day.
Okay.
But we celebrate Back Pocket Day in May. So we are so. And then we have Christmas. Pete just we have Christmas in July as well, because we don't want to ruin Christmas. So yeah, so Back Pocket Day is the day that we launched Back Pocket, which was the end of July, or I think it was the end of July, and then wherever Gus's birthday is, and then we celebrate Back Pocket Day in May. So if anyone has an idea of what we could do to celebrate Back Pocket Day in May, but it's actually July, let us know and show feedback. All right, everyone got that? Confused Kid says, "What the fuck, Nick?" All right, that is it for the news. There is a little bit more news, and that is we're back tonight, Steph.
Yes, so today is Wednesday. You haven't got the calendar date wrong. It is not Thursday, but it is Back Pocket Day because there is another thing that's happening tomorrow that has meant that Back Pocket has had to be pushed to today. So tonight at 8 p.m, Back Pocket live on Twitch, right here in this channel. I'm going to be wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, cool. Are you?
Yeah.
I reckon I love it. I think that is such a cool hoodie. It's a jumper. It's a jumper. It's a jumper.
Like, nice pants, Steph.
Yeah, so come check out Back Pocket tonight, which is happening tonight, and then tomorrow night, when we normally would be doing Back Pocket, I will actually be streaming. So I will be streaming Paradise Killer, which I finally get to get back into. I need to get my feet wet and remember what the hell happened. But I'll sort of start that around 9:30. Once the family goes to bed, then that's when I'll stream. I'm not going to sacrifice my precious family time for some weird penis finger game, but I will sacrifice my sleep time to be able to spend some time with you guys. So I would love to see you hang out on the Back Pocket channel, streaming that tomorrow night. And then tonight we've got Back Pockets. We'll be around in a few hours. We hope you have a good day.
And the second episode of Best Friend Forever is on the YouTube channel now. It's very much in the style of our Dream Daddy's playthrough that we did back on Screenplay. And it is so fun.
It is so much fun. They are just so, I just love that that's our thing. It's just such a fun thing to do. I look forward to those shoots all the time, and the episodes are just a ton of fun. So yeah, first 2 episodes are up, and that one went up yesterday, and we've got another one in the can ready to go for a week where there's nothing else to do.
Psycho Dragon wants to know if you're rating Osher again.
Is he on? I'm getting word that we're going to be rating Bert Newton.
Mitch Brazizi. I went to we did musicals together at uni.
Really?
Yeah, true story. He was the drummer in like the musical band when I did musicals at Macquarie Uni.
That's cool. Do you reckon he'd remember you?
Oh yeah. We've chatted since then. I've rated him since, I think.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, cool. Well, should the raid message be make Gus the next Bachelor?
No, what's like a weird? No, I don't know.
But Pete said just slapping that bass was the suggestion. Slapping that bass drum. Sorry, slapping that bass.
What do
drum.
you say to drummers? What's the drummer thing apart from just jokes about them?
Tish. Budum tish. What about play a real instrument? What about your
drummer jokes?
Yeah, drummer jokes. That's
Only
good.
one of
Can
the
you
best drummer jokes ever.
Okay, we've only got time for 17 of them. Go.
How do you tell if the stage is level? The drummer is drooling from both sides of his mouth. I don't get that.
Because drummers are idiots.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
How can you tell if a drummer's at the door, the knocking speeds up? Oh, because they can't keep time.
That's funny. Have you seen Whiplash? Says Kane in the chat.
But you have to put lol at the end of it. Have you seen Whiplash? Lol is the raid tag.
Because we don't want to end up with another Osher scenario where we just piss off everyone on Twitch.
Feel free to add a few extra L's to the end of your lol as well.
Yeah, enough so that you aren't quite sure whether or not it's being sarcastic or not. It can be read both ways. All right, we are excited to be back tonight. Steph, thank you very much for a lovely morning spent together.
I had a great time.
I had a great time too.
But I always do.
Hey, there you go. And even if you didn't, you wouldn't say that on camera.
You can't fake this enthusiasm.
No, you can't. You're far too bubbly to actually be having a terrible time.
Live on
camera. Everybody learned something today. Microsoft own everything, and here's how to fold a t-shirt so it stands up by itself. Congratulations, you're a wizard now. We'll be back with more Back Pocket tonight. Raid the guy with the drum. Have you seen Whiplash? LOL. Let's back it out.